on time. Muy bien, excelente. Okay, we're going to record this for, in case we have people making airport runs, can't make it to class. Lo que pase, whatever may happen. All the, aquí viene Padmini. Oh, here comes everybody. Momentito. I got a lot of people logging in, so we're going to give folks a minute to get their screens up and ready to go. Excelente. Excelente. Y muy bien, ¿dónde estás? Bueno, CJ, Padmini, hola.
Hola,
Hola.
Hola, buenos días. Buenos días, ¿cómo están todos? How's everybody? Bien?
muy bien.
Bien.
Feeling a little discombobulated after that long break? Oh, yeah, that happens. Eso sí pasa, that does happen. Pero no se preocupen, do not worry. We are going to start. I do want to start off with two quick thingies, two quick reminders. One quick reminder is that for all the classes at Scottsdale does, not just mine, registration is open for classes that start in January, and I think they start January 10th. They give people that, first week of January as a first week of the new year as a pass. So classes do not start till January 10th, I have been told. So registration is open online for those of you who are interested in doing that for any class whatsoever. I do want to show you the 2 pages you'll want to have handy for the work we're going to do today. For some of the work we're going to do today, make sure you've got this pronunciation page. And some of you people like to print it out and have it handy. If you did that, I want to give you time to, search where did I put that, because that would be me. Or if you pull it up as a second screen, that's always helpful. So that's one. The second page I would like you to have handy is this one, which we're going to do the correction on this. This was the homework. And it's just making sure that you know how to make a noun, person, place, or thing, a noun plural, and how to use the correct indefinite article, meaning some, and the correct definite article, which means the, with that plural noun. And we'll go through the corrections, all what all the answer key is on that page. So this page and the pronunciation page are the 2 ones you want to have handy. And what we're going to be covering today is going to be way down here. It's going to be those C and G sounds. So C and G sounds. Okay. Okay. We're going to talk about plural nouns. We're going to talk about 3 really important verbs that we might use in Spanish to say something is, or some things are, or I am, or we are, or you guys are. We're going to talk about 3 special verbs, which are ser and estar and hay. And the one verb they cover a little bit, but they don't, well, it doesn't take as long because the only form you have is I. Why do we have 3 verbs that might be translated as is or are or am? Oh, why is that so complicated? Well, it just is, but we'll get around that. What will be important will be to know what situations we use each of those 3 verbs in: ser, estar, and I. And we're going to work with numbers. So we've got a full plate. 1 hora y media, an hour and a half. Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any question before we start? Anything I need to clarify before we start? Sí o no?
This particular pronunciation sheet, was it in an attachment for an email?
It was.
Okay.
But like first lesson, I think.
It was
Okay.
it was also a Google Doc.
Yeah,
So
it's
one
a
of the
Google.
links
It's a
that she
Google
attached.
Doc. What I am going to do is.
If you want to just put it in chat, I can grab
I'm
it.
going to put it in chat. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Okay, thank you.
I've just got to get
Thank you.
my right. Okay.
I remember reviewing this.
Yeah. Sí.
Gracias.
Almost there. Okay. All right. And I think I need, oh, yes. I need to take it off share to put it in the chat box. Here it is. There it is. There it is.
Thank you.
So, yeah. De nada. Okay. I am old and slow, but I get there eventually. Okay. As my children love to tell me, my 20-something children. Oh, mama.
Isn't that when they're supposed to come back to you? Because I'm in the phase of an
Oh, yes.
alien invading their body. So.
Yes. No. We went with my oldest I was horrible to, I started to look pretty good. Yeah, we went through that phase. That was lots of fun. Okay. Vamos a empezar. Unless you've got a question, we're going to start with these C and G sounds, which are not hard, but they are unusual in that most of the Spanish alphabet, each letter only gets this many sounds. Un sonido, one sound, but the letter C has two potential sounds and the letter G has two potential sounds. But after today, you'll know what they are. And luckily for us, when they get one sound versus another follows kind of the same rules for C and for G. So each letter has both a hard and a soft sound. Here's the hard sound for C, K, like K. Yeah. Okay. So if we were to represent that phonetically, it would look like the letter K, like the C in cat in English. K, K, K. The soft sound for the letter C is S and S. Now, that is often a different sound in Spain. So I will lightly mention what that sound is because it will sound very strange to you as an English speaker, but it is used only in Spain and nowhere in Latin America. So we're going to cover mainly the K, K, K and the S, 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 a sound, okay? Related to that, G gets a hard and a soft sound. Here's the hard sound for G. G, just what you expect, okay? Como en inglés, like in English. But the soft sound for G is going to be H, the throaty H sound. So in other words, sometimes G sounds exactly like this letter. Sometimes it sounds like the J, the J. It gets that H, the H, but a throaty H. If you can't do the throaty part, just H works. Okay, so when they go with the hard versus a soft sound, we'll follow the same pattern. Here we go. We're going to look at the hard sounds from both of these, the K, K, K sound, okay? With C, if the letter after C, or I'm not going to say if, the letter after C determines whether it gets the K or the S sound, okay? The letter after G determines whether it gets a hard G or a soft H sound. If the letter after C is A, O, U, those vowels, A, O, U, or C plus a consonant, it gets the hard K sound. Similarly, if the letter after G is A, O, U, or these combinations, G-U-A, G-U-O, and you'll see why later, G and a consonant, you get the hard G sound. So we're going to look at examples of these, and these will not be hard. Okay, so I'm going to enlarge this a little bit, but if you're looking at your paper, that's okay too. We're going to look at our C sounds, and we're going to practice these. I'm going to look at the C sounds down here, and I tell you what each word means, although that's not really important. We're focusing on the sounds, and we're recycling all those vowels as we're practicing the K, K, K sound, right? A, E, I, O, U, we're recycling all of those. So, bueno, repitan, por favor, canta. Canta.
Canta.
Canta. Okay, these are examples of when it will have a k sound. Cuesta.
Cuesta.
Cuesta. Cuesta is a really useful word to have in your hip pocket. Cuesta means it costs. It is like one thing. It costs. That's what that word means. Cuesta. Cuesta. Okay. All the k sounds. Corre.
Corre.
Corre. Corre.
Corre.
Corre, runs. Somebody, one person runs. Okay. Here's a word. Oh, actually, I didn't put the slang. The slang for what this word means is hung over. But yeah, it's one of the words used for hungover, but it also means raw. So you can see how it gets to the slang's meaning of hungover. You feel pretty raw if you're hungover, right? But raw, like raw vegetables, raw meat, raw food. Okay, so crudo, crudo, crudo. And notice that D is between two vowels. So the D will get a really soft, like a th sound. Crudo, crudo. Yeah. Now we're going to look at C and a consonant. Claro.
Claro.
Claro is a great word to know because claro is a word we often use to agree with somebody. Oh, claro. Claro. It's like telling somebody, okay. Ah, claro. You know, you mean you're agreeing. If you mean to disagree, do not use the word claro, but claro means you're agreeing. Here's something we put in coffee sometimes, folks. Crema.
Crema.
Crema. Cream. Okay. Now we're going back to a CA combination. Caldo. Caldo is broth, a clear, vegetable or meat soup, caldo. And here, this is really important. If somebody invites you out and they say, ¿Quieres una copa? They're asking you to come out and have a little drink, and they mean alcohol. They don't mean coffee or tea or water or soft drink. Copa is a specific kind of a glass. It would mean like a wine glass. Okay, this is like a wine glass. So, copa. If someone invites you out, as they will, because people do that, tomas una copa conmigo, have a little drink with me. Copa means specifically they want you to have a little alcoholic drink with them. Okay, so those are all k sounds. You see how these works, right? Ka, ko, ku, or CL, CR. That's usually what winds up happening. C plus a consonant usually means CL or CR. Okay, similarly, we're going to get hard g sounds here. So we're looking on the right-hand side. Agua. Agua, importante, agua. And though that GUA is ua. It sounds almost like a W in English, doesn't it? Agua, water. Agua. Okay. Eyeglasses, gafas. Gafas is used in some countries. Some people call this thing that we call gafas lentes. They call them lentes. Depends on which country you're in. Lentes or gafas. Lentes de sol, glasses of sun. That means sunglasses. Gafas de sol. That means glasses of sun, sunglasses. Gafas. Okay. Rubber, like on a tire or in an eraser. Goma. Here's a longer word, but you may see it on a menu sometime when you travel. And we have that word legume, which comes from a similar thing, way back in a Latin rooted word, legumbre. Legumbre is one word for vegetable. There's more than one.
Marilyn, can you share your screen? Because that link does not
I am
have
so
these
sorry.
words.
Perdón, I am so sorry. Perdón, aquí.
There you go.
Mejor, better. Always interrupt me when I forget that. Perdón. Here we have a G consonant. And I'll highlight this once again so you can see it. Magnifico.
Magnifico.
Magnifico, magnifico.
Magnifico.
Yeah, so it's going to get the hard G sound. Magnifico. Magnifico is what we call a cognate. It is a word that looks like an English word and means what you think it means. Okay, but very, very close to our English word, magnifico. And this means that they both came from a Latin root, and we borrowed it in English from a Latin root. It came into English through Latin from French long ago. Time of William the Conqueror, 1066. Okay, here we go. G and a consonant. GR. Grande.
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 Grande. Grande. Big or large. That word sometimes gets shortened to the word gran to mean great. Gran. Un gran hombre, a great man. Okay. Here's one of the many words, because there are many words that mean happy, yeah, that kind of feeling, okay? Alegre,
Alegre.
alegre,
Alegre.
alegre. Okay,
Alegre.
and here we've got a G-U-A, and we're gonna pronounce all those vowels. So it will be U-A, 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 guarda,
Guarda.
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 Guarda, often it's used to mean that, you keep something, keep your ticket, keep your pay stub, keep your receipt, guarda. Okay.
Guarda.
So k sounds and g sounds, okay? Alguna pregunta? Any question on these before we move on to the soft sounds? No? Okay. Vamos, let's take a look. Now, C gets the soft sound, which is an S, and G gets a ch sound, the 30H, when the combination is C, E, or C, I. Boom, that's it. If C is followed by the letter E, if C is followed by the letter I, if G is followed by the letter E, if G is followed by the letter I, they get the soft sound. So we're going to look at the S sound here in the letter C. Okay, the word for zero, and notice it's spelled almost like zero, but you cannot have the combination Z, E in Spanish. You just can't. So the way they express that is instead of Z, E for zero, it's C, E. Cero.
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 It's that easy. In all of Latin America, in all Mexico, Central America, Mexico, Latino America, Sudamerica, everybody pronounces it that way. Cero. Okay. Next, we've got a word that means center. This also means downtown. Like if people use this to talk in the city, they mean the downtown area. Centro.
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 Centro. Okay. Next is, here is a teeny tiny bit of money. Centavo. Centavo. Repitan, centavo.
Centavo.
Centavo. Yeah. Okay. Centavo. Here's a word for an appointment or a date, like date night. Not a date on a calendar. A date that you have like with your dentist, that kind of date, or a date that you have with somebody because, you want to get to know them better. Okay. Cita.
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 Cita. Okay. Here's a short word. It's a shortened word, like bike comes from bicycle. This is their shortened word for bicycle, which is bicicleta. But the short word that people often use to say bike, like we say bike, is bici.
Bici.
Bici. So you see, it doesn't matter where the CI or the CE is in the word. If it starts the word, if it's in the middle of the word, it doesn't matter. It's always that S sound, BC. Okay. Oh, the word for 100. And hopefully we'll get that far today. Ciento. 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 Our word century comes from the same Latin word that they get the word ciento from, ciento. And the word for sky or heaven or heavens is cielo.
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 If you've ever heard the Mexican tune Cielito Lindo, it means a little bit of heaven. Cielito, cielito means little heaven. Cielo is sky or heavens. So C-I-C-E is an S sound. I'm going to show you what I'm going to demonstrate what it sounds like if a Spaniard pronounces these. It is different in Spain. C-I and C-E in Spanish, in Castilian, Castellano, sounds like a TH, which sounds very lispy to English speakers, but it is not a lisp. So this is how a Spaniard, a true Spaniard would pronounce the letters CE and CI. These words would become cero, centro, centavo, cita, bici, ciento, cielo. Still a soft sound, but a TH. And even the word gracias, which is G-R-A-C-I-A-S, gracias, in Spain it's gracias, gracias. So just so you know, that is how they pronounce it there, but nowhere in Central America or in South America or Mexico. Okay, vale. Now we've got consistent sounds here for G-E and G-I, the ch, the H. So we've got a G-E here in this man's name, Jorge.
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 Jorge. Yeah. Now these are going to be a little more of a challenge because we do a j and there is not the j for this letter in Spanish. So, you know, we're used to saying general, but it is general.
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 General. Okay. Here is a very generic word that means people. Gente.
Gente.
Gente. La gente means people. La gente. Okay. Here's a word that means page, but it is pronounced página. Página. And that accent letter or the accent mark over the A of the pa means we punch that syllable harder than the other three. Página.
Página.
Página. Okay. Página. Bien. Okay. Here's the word that is really, really hard for English speakers, but it means a gym, G-Y-M. There is not an abbreviation for this word in Spanish the way there is in English. A gymnasium, and it is pronounced gimnasio. Gimnasio.
Gymnasium.
Gimnasio. Gymnasio is a gymnasium, a place where people go to play basketball, play volleyball, play all kinds of sports, have their gym class if they're kids. Gimnasio. El gimnasio. El gimnasio. This word is also really tough for English speakers because we want to say energia, and it's not that. It's not a j. It's a ch. Energía.
Energía.
Energía. La energía. Energía. And again, this gets an accent mark on that I. That means we punch the gia harder. Energía.
Energía.
Energía, whether you're talking about like your body's energy or energy, energía del sol, energy from the sun, any kind of energy is energía. So you see that comes from a Latin root because we've got a similar word. And this wonderful word, because some people, some of you could be this. And when you go into a restaurant, you ought to ask, do you have this kind of food, right? And if so, if you're a vegetarian, it's good to know that word. Vegetariano. What a long word. We're going to take it apart. We're going to do the first part first. Veje.
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 Okay, now we're gonna add on one more
Vegetariano.
vegetable. Vegetar.
Vegetar.
Vegetar. And now we've got vegetariano.
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 Vegetariano, muy bien. Vegetariano, vegetariano. And we change the O at the end to an A if we talk about comida, food. Comida, food. Vegetariana, vegetarian. Comida vegetariana, vegetarian food. Or a vegetarian dish, like at a restaurant. Un plato, a dish. Un plato vegetariano. Bien. Okay. So, okay, we're going to look at one little, it's not really an exception. It's just what happens. Okay. GUE and GUI are kind of a special situation. The only truly 100% of the time silent letter is an H, H in Spanish, but sometimes the letter U goes silent. Sometimes. Oh, it did that with the word que, Q-U-E, Q-U-I. Yeah, recuerdan. You guys remember? Que and ki, Q-U-E, Q-U-I. The U goes silent. In these combinations, the U goes silent. Okay. And this doesn't happen all the time, but okay, it'll be G-U-E, ge, and G-U-I, gi, like geek. Okay, so in these combinations of GUE, GUI, you will not pronounce the U. But the U has a job. The U has a job to stand there because GU has to go into a hard G sound. The job of the U is to stand there and give the G the hard G sound. Okay, but the U itself goes silent. So our words here will be words, like we have this word, kind of, almost. We have guerrilla warfare, which we borrowed from the Spanish. Guerra.
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 Guerra, war. We've got words like a guide, like somebody who is leading your group on a tour. Guía.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you will be silent. When it will not be guía, it'll be guía, guía. Here's a word that means arrive, which, well, we don't say that. Oh, but we do say get there, like get there at 8, right? So here's the get there part. It's a command. Llegue, llegue, llegue.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Next, we got another command when it means, hey, pay up. Pague.
Okay.
Pague.
Okay.
Pague. Here's another command you may hear somebody say, because if they want you to follow along, or if they want you to keep going like straight, okay, and they're giving you directions, they may use this word, sigue.
Sigue.
Sigue. Sigue. And you may also hear this longer form of that word sigue, and it changes a little bit at the end to mean following, like the following day or the following page. Okay. Siguiente. Siguiente. This is a word you hear quite a lot. El día siguiente, the following day, the next day, the day that's coming up. Siguiente. Okay. So, ge and gi, those combinations. We're going to look at this. This is really rare, guys. It happens in very, very few words. If you see a GUE and a GUI with a little double dot, which is like in German, they call that an umlaut, they call it diéresis in Spanish. That means, oh, I know, GUE and GUI, U is silent. But if you see the double dot, it means go ahead and you need to pronounce the U. Now, the good news is there are probably this many words that uses in the whole language. Come on, seriously, like, not that many. So here are the ones that you might hear. I mean, I got to like work hard to pick ones that you'll hear. And one is pinguino.
Pinguino.
Pinguino. Pinguino, pinguino, pinguino. And we do pronounce the U because of that double dot over the U, pinguino. And here's another word, which is actually kind of common. It's used to talk about teenagers who are being a royal pain in the behind. Vergüenza. Vergüenza. Vergüenza means a shame. People mean, que vergüenza. What a shame. Que vergüenza. Que vergüenza. And this, which is kind of a slang word, this last one, this is used a lot in Mexico. And it basically means you're a blonde gringo kind of person. It used to be kind of viewed as a pejorative term, but it isn't really, but güero.
Güero.
Güero, somebody's basically calling you, hey, blondie. What they mean is now, like kind of like, oh, an American, oh, a Swede, oh, some blondie person who's very obviously not Hispanic. Güero, güero. Like
Güero.
blonde person. Okay. So you're not going to see GUI very much. Okay. I'm just going to preview, but we're not going to practice this yet today. The B and the V, the B and the V are going to sound alike. So I'm going to preview what those will be like. They'll be like this, b, 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 b. They sound like a B. And you've already seen words in the other sections that sound like that. B and V, oddly enough, make the same sound as Spanish. And I will send you a video that will model what that should sound like. It is a softer B and a V. Sometimes it's a little harder. Sometimes it's very, very, very soft. Almost really hard to hear. But basically, the important thing to remember with the B and the V is that with our letter V, very lightly, your teeth touch your lip. And that should not happen. Your two lips should join. Ba, 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 ba. So they will sound like a B. Both B and V are virtually the same sound. They will sound like a B or a V, but they will be softer than they are in English. They will be non-explosive. And when I say explosive, there are lots of letters in English where if you put your hand up in front of your mouth like this, you would feel a puff of air. With our P's, we do that too. And you should feel very little or no puff of air with the letter B. Be, 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 be. 14 years old, I had to stand with a piece of paper doing and watch for they'd watch for the paper to wiggle. And if it wiggled, it cracked over the head. Okay, so, which we don't do with anybody here, but you'll have a whole list of words that you'll practice it with, and you'll get a couple of videos. And I'm also going to send a video on rolling your R, because some people find that easy, some people find that hard. Rolling your R is not a make it or break it thing, but it does help because there are some words that get both. They're spelled the same with a single or a double R, but they have different meanings. So it's great if you can master it. But if you don't, or if you need a lot of time to master it, know that that is not, it does not break any deals. But it's nice to get to know how to roll an R. So I've got a really great video I will send you on how to roll an R, because it is the best method I have found to help you work that. And some of you may have to work it harder than others. It's, no big deal. That's what happens. Okay. Bueno, alguna pregunta? Any question before we move on to actually putting together little sentences? Sí o no?
The word via, like a villa. Do you say villa?
Villa, yeah, like a villa that you live in, like a large ritzy house. Yeah, villa. But the B will be a very soft B. Your lips come together. Villa. Not via, not via. No, villa. Villa, yeah. We have a lot of streets with villa in their names here where we live. You'll see a lot of street signs, right? Villa Linda in Scottsdale. Yeah, lots of buildings and street signs, and sometimes even cities get names with villa in them. Okay, bien. Vale, magnífico. Bueno, we are going to take a look at this idea of plurals real quickly. So I'm going to share this and quick review because you may have forgotten. This is just a review and we're going to look at the answer key. Okay. And our setup here, and it's color coded for a reason, was first we wanted you to change the word from one of those things. These are nouns, people, places, things, nouns, from a singular to a plural noun. So essentially you're adding either S or ES, right? And do you add S or do you add ES? Well, it depends on the last letter of the noun, the person, place, or thing. If the last letter is a vowel, you just add S. If the last letter is a consonant, not A-E-I-O-U, then you add an ES. And then we have that C to Z thing, but that is just a spelling convention that you need to learn in Spanish. So we're turning nouns into from single, mes, 1 month, to meses, months. And then we're saying some months. The word for some is unos meses. And the word for the months is los meses. So we're combining it with an indefinite article, which means or some, or a definite article, which means the. Okay. And you know whether it's masculine or feminine because in the middle column, you've got the singular version of those articles, and the, right? And the. So we're making all of these plurals, and we're going to check out what the answer key tells us. What are the answers for that? Okay, we go from meses, months, like January, February, March, April, more than one. Unos meses, some months. Los meses, the months. Bien, okay. Año, year. Año, unos años, some years. Los años. Bien. Ya padre, father. Padres means fathers. Padres also can mean parents, like mom and dad together. Spanish uses the masculine plural to give the group name to it for both mom and dad together. Okay, so padres also more commonly probably is used for parents, mom and dad, both of them. Unos padres, some parents. Los padres, the parents. Bien. We've got animal, one of them, but animales, animals. Unos animales, some animals. Los animales, the animals. We've got, and you notice I'm going heavy on family members because that was in our chapter 2, capítulo 2, okay? Hermano, brother, becomes hermanos, brothers, or again, because it's masculine plural, it can mean brothers and sisters. Yeah, all lumped together. Hermanos, unos hermanos, some brothers and sisters. Los hermanos, the brothers and sisters, or it can mean just brothers. Okay. Now, if you see a feminine plural form, it's got to be an all-gal group. Hija, hija, daughter, but hijas, daughters, unas hijas, las hijas, the daughters. Okay? And by the way, that whole thing of assigning gender is now a hot topic, very contentious. It's like raging 60 negative to 40 positive right now, kind of. And the younger people are, the more, yeah, some at some point, the gender neutral thing is going to become a thing. When my generation dies. And the people who make the rules get older and step up to the leadership roles. That will happen someday, but not quite yet. So we got familia, family, familia, familias, unas familias, some families, las familias, the families. Okay, bien. And now we got a Z to C change. This is just a spelling convention. It sounds like it should, okay? But the Z changes to a C first because that's just a rule they have. So luz, light, becomes luces, lights, unas luces, some lights, las luces, the lights, okay? Here's another word that means the same thing as gente, but whereas gente is always singular, this word can go to a plural. Persona, person, can become personas, personas. Unas personas, some people. Las personas, the people, the persons. We don't use persons very much in English as a plural word. And here's another, here's something that we use a lot as tourists. Okay, taxi, taxi, it ends in a vowel. So the plural is taxis. And it's unos taxis, some taxis, los taxis, the taxi, and we taxi cabs. Yeah, bien, okay, bien, good. And I will put the answer key link in the email so that you can, check that out in greater detail should you need to do that. Alguna pregunta? Any question about how we make a noun plural or any other examples of when we use some or when we use the words for the or ¿Alguna pregunta o no? No, no, no. Okay, bien. Magnífico. Vale. Okay. We're going to move on. We're going to start to incorporate some of these things now into actual sentences. And we're going to move on to the the three verbs that are very, very common in Spanish to talk about things or people. And the three verbs are ser, to be, estar, also to be. Huh? Why to? Well, you'll see. And hay, meaning there is or there are. Now, out of those three kind of golden verbs, and they're golden because almost all, these are amongst the most commonly used words. If you talk to somebody for 15 random minutes on the street, you'll almost definitely hear either a form of ser, a form of estar, or the word hay somewhere in that conversation. It's almost impossible to not use it on a daily basis, on a frequent basis, okay? And I'll send you this whole slide that I'm going to show you next. But we're going to talk first about ser because you've seen ser a lot. Ser means to be, and this is a verb. The important thing for you to know is, why do we have two verbs for to be? Well, kind of goes back to Latin, I guess. Although, interestingly, French does not do this, even though they're Latin based. Not sure about Italian. I'll have to look that up. Ser is used to identify. That's its principal job. There are all kinds of rules for when you use ser, but rather than knowing every rule, which you can gradually, it's a good thing to get to know. Get to know that ser identifies. It tells who people are. It tells you something essential about that thing or that person. It tells you something that tends to be permanent or, something that is not easily changed. Okay, so here is kind of a rule of thumb. If you're talking about people's professions, because that's used to identify, if you name somebody, You talk about people's nationalities, their relationships, their descriptions that don't change easily. Like somebody is tall or is thin. You know, in order for them to get fat, they got to work on it for like a whole, you know, many, 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 many days. Well, okay, maybe for some of us, not as long as for others, but you know what I'm saying. Things that, if I describe somebody's personality, what they generally are like, or what they look like most of the time, I use this verb. Or if I identify what they do for a living, or where they come from, I use this verb, ser. So it's really important to know how to conjugate. That means use ser. And we conjugate this verb in English. It's extremely irregular in English as well. It's I am, but you are, and he is, she is, they are, we go back to are, we are, we go back to are, okay? In Spanish, there will be these categories too. We get the words for I, and who does the action? I know to be, you're not really doing anything, but whoever does the action gets assigned a special form of each and every verb in Spanish, except for that I verb. So ser gets a conjugation, that means a special form of ser. And the conjugation, the verb form, depends on who does the action. In other words, who is the subject of the sentence. Okay, so in Spanish, yo, I, just only one of me, always gets a special conjugation. I is called first person, but singular, this many people. But if I have somebody with me, it becomes the idea of nosotros. Nosotros means we, and we means I have people with me. That's all we means. In order to use the word we in English, I have to be in a group. I might have this many people with me, or this many, or this many, or this many, or it doesn't matter how many, as long as I am with at least one other person. So it's going to be at least this many people, right? Anybody, y yo, and I, y yo, y Ana y yo means the same thing as nosotros. Maria y yo, and Maria and I means the same thing as nosotros. It means we, okay? And that will always get a special form. Sometimes they use a feminine form, but that means it's got to be an all-female group. It won't happen a lot, but just know it exists. Tú, you, addressing somebody as the familiar, the pal, the friendly you, will always get a special verb form in Spanish. In Spain, it gets a plural verb form, but that will never be used in Latin America. So you can forget about vosotros for communicating with people on this side of the Atlantic. Tú and vosotros are considered second person because they mean you're addressing someone directly. Okay. These three pronouns, which represent some kind of human being, él or ella or usted. These three pronouns are what we call third person. Third person means you're talking about somebody. Okay. Él represents the idea of he, one male person or one masculine thing. And notice it gets an accent mark. It sounds the same as the el that means the. It's just spelled with an accent mark, that's all. Ella means she. It represents or stands in for a one female person or one feminine gendered thing. And then oddly enough, usted, the you, but the formal, the polite, the formal you, falls into this category. So anytime you use as a subject of a sentence, él or ella or usted, all three of these pronouns always share the same verb in Spanish. They always share what we call third person singular, third person talking about one person. And the person isn't me, and it isn't you. Well, it could be you if it's usted. Yeah, okay. But these three pronouns will always use the same verb form, okay? The plural of third person is third person plural. It means you're talking about groups of people. And the pronouns that represent those ideas are ellos, they, which can be an all male or a mixed male and female group. Ellas, which has to mean they, but it must be all female group. 100 women, one guy, it flips back to ellos. That may change someday, but not yet. And the plural of usted, ustedes, okay? Which you sometimes see abbreviated, sometimes written out as a whole word. Ustedes, you guys, you all, y'all. Or just plain old you, right? In English, you don't, when somebody say you, it might mean you're talking to this many people, you're talking to this many people as you, right? There's no distinguishing between plural and single you in English anymore. So ellos or ellas or ustedes, those pronouns represent third person plural. So every verb, ser or estar, or any other verb later on that you'll get, except for I, they'll get conjugated for these human beings. And the verb in Spanish will always go into 6 different forms. But the good news for you is that Spain uses that vosotros form, and Latin America does not like it ever. They know it's out there. They don't speak it ever. So you only need to know this many. Yay. Okay. What are those forms for ser? Here are the forms of ser. Okay. They are soy, I am. Eres, you are. Es, he is, or she is, or you is. The formal you are, right? Somos, we are, I'm in a group. I have somebody with me. Sois, they only use in Spain, so we're not going to practice that one. Or son. Now, because in Spanish, each verb, except for that golden I verb, each verb gets this many, 5 different forms. The verb automatically tells the whole story in Spanish. And often, not 100%, but often, people will omit, throw away, not bother with the human being you're talking about with that verb. So people will not bother to say yo. People often will not bother to say tú. They will often not bother to say nosotros, because there's only one verb which goes with each one of these pronouns. There's only one verb assigned. So the verb automatically tells you who you're talking about. Yo. The verb automatically tells who you're talking about. Tú. The verb automatically tells who you're talking about. Somos. They may include the person they're talking about with this one, es, or they may not. If it's understood from context, they may blow it off, but they may include it because es combines with lots of potential human beings. Es could mean Roberto es. Es could mean Alicia es. Es could mean usted es, right? Es could pair up with el doctor es, the doctor is. So they may name the person for that. And similarly, they may name the person with son, or they may not, right? It may be paired up with ustedes, you guys are, ustedes son, right? But the verb tells the whole story. So here are the forms. So I want you to practice these forms of ser with me right now. Repitan, por favor. Soy.
Soy.
Soy. Eres.
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 Es.
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 Is.
Es.
Only
Es.
one you're talking about one person when you use es. Somos.
Somos.
Somos. We are. Sois is in Spain, so we're going to gloss over that one. Son.
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 Son. Now you may wonder, why do I have little different colors here and here and here? That's because I want to remind you, when you see or hear those letters on a verb, not on a noun, but on a verb, when you hear those letters, they're going to indicate, oh, the verb falls into one of those categories. That's going to be pretty consistent. Okay, that S at the end, the mos at the end, the na sound at the end of a verb, an action word, means second person or first person plural or third person plural. That's what happens. Okay, so let's go back to soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. These mean I am, you are, he is, we are, they are. And when do we use these forms of ser? We use them because ser is used to identify, to put a stamping mark on a person, place, or thing. Okay? It is used to identify people or things by means of giving a description, like a physical trait, or a personality trait too, actually, that is consistent, yeah. Telling an occupation, what they do for a living. Telling, oh, we've got this in the third one, personality traits. You know, like somebody is generally a happy person, not they feel happy, but they are an upbeat kind of person. Es una persona muy contenta. It's a happy person, meaning they're upbeat, not they feel that way. They are an upbeat kind of person, not a Debbie Downer. Okay. Ser is used for telling time. We'll have to get to that quite a bit later. Wish I could do that today, but we cannot. It's used to tell origin, where somebody is from, or their nationality, and relationships, to tell who people are within a group, because that's an identification marker or a stamp, right? So ser is used for all those reasons. Okay, vale. Let's see. If I gave you these people as subjects of a sentence, meaning I'm talking about these human beings, what would be the form of ser I would need to use? Or scrambled up here. What is the form of ser I would need to correspond to these human beings? Let's start with mi hijo, my son. Which one of these verbs could match up with mi hijo?
Es.
Es. I would need es. Uy, and this always happens. I have a hard time getting that to isolate. I want to move that over. Es. You know what? I'm going to just cheat and type it in. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of, like, in context. Mi hijo es alto. Mi hijo es alto. My son is?
Tall.
Oh, okay. Mi hijo es alto. Yo. Which one of these verb forms will match up with yo?
Soy.
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 Soy is the magic verb that will match up with yo. Yo soy. But people will usually skip the yo part of it. They can include it, but they'll usually skip it. Soy. Soy maestra. I'm a teacher. Soy morena. I'm brunette most of the time. Soy creativa. I am creative. Soy creativa. It's a personality trait I have. Soy creativa. Okay. Okay. Mi hijo y yo, which means the same thing as nosotros, my son and I. Which one of these verbs would I use?
Somos.
Somos.
Somos is what would match up. Somos would match up with that. Ooh, it doesn't want to move. Momentito. Somos is what would match up here. Uy, ya vamos. A ver. Ok. Somos, muy bien. Somos, mi hijo y yo somos, mi hijo y yo somos norteamericanos. We are US citizens. Origin. Okay. Un ejemplo, an example. Ustedes. Which one of these is going to match up with ustedes?
Son.
Son.
Son. We need a plural verb form here. Son. Ustedes son. Oh, perdón. Wow. That didn't happen. A ver. When I get many of these mixed, even though I think I'm picking the right thing, it doesn't want to move. That little crosshair is really, really touchy. Okay, ustedes son. Ustedes son. Ustedes son muy amables. You guys are really kind. Ustedes son amables. Ustedes son amables. Bien, okay. Alicia, I'm talking about one gal. Alicia.
S.
Es.
Es. Qué fácil. How easy. Alicia es. Alicia es. Muy bien. Alicia es. Alicia es una chica. Alicia es mi amiga. Alicia es delgada. She is thin. I can use any kind of description here. Ricardo y Laura. Ricardo y Laura. I'm talking about two human
Eres.
beings.
No, es.
Cuidado, careful here.
Oh,
Na,
es.
na, at the end is what you're looking for with a verb.
Son.
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 Mm.
Whenever I'm talking about more than one person, son is the verb form here. Okay. Ricardo y Laura son hermanos. Ricardo y Laura, Richie and Laura, are brother and sister. Son hermanos. Okay. Ricardo y Laura son mexicanos. They are Mexican, where they're from. Bien, okay. And the only thing we got left to pick is eres. And eres only matches up with
Tú.
tú. Eres, people will skip the tú. The tú is there simply as a prompt. Eres. Okay? Tú eres interesante. You are interesting. Okay. So we have all of these verb forms for ser. Now, the one thing where I heard a little confusion, and this is good, you made this mistake. You guys got very used to doing plural nouns that ended in S. That S at the end of a verb, S at the end of a noun means more than one. S at the end of a verb does not. S at the end of a verb usually indicates a specific human being. And an AS or an ES will be the tú form. Okay, bien? Vale?
I must say this is the word ser is nowhere in any of these conjugated forms.
Well, you will start to see more and more.
boy.
Now we're going to
Okay.
take a look at. Now that is just for ser. Okay. That is what we call an irregular verb. That means it does not follow a pattern. You're going to see, sadly, not until probably about the last class, but regular verbs are going to follow very regular patterns. But I want to show you that even in the irregular patterns, there are certain things that are little clues to you, especially to tell you nosotros or to tell you a they verb or a tú verb. Okay. In almost all languages, the verb that represents to be winds up being irregular. They just are. And sadly, we just have to memorize these, but you're going to see a lot of examples. So the way you're going to get it is from the examples that you see over and over and over and over again. Okay. Estar also means to be. This is so sad that we've got two confusing verbs, but no, they're not going to be confusing after today. Here we go. Estar is also irregular, but I'm going to move ahead to tell you why we use estar. Ser is used to identify, to put an ID stamp on somebody or something. It tells you something that is not easily changed. Ser. Ser tells you where they're from, that can't change. What they physically look like, unless they go to a plastic surgeon, that ain't going to change. It tells you what their personality is generally like, where they're from, okay? Things that are not easily changeable. Estar means to be in these two situations. To talk about location. Where something is. I am at home. I am in front of my computer. I am in Arizona. We are in the state of Arizona. We are in Maricopa County. You guys are in Scottsdale. Location uses estar, a different verb for to be. Estar is also used to talk about conditions that may easily change. That means it talks about your health or it talks about your emotions. If I am a happy person, that means I am an upbeat kind of person. But if I say I am happy, it talks about how I feel. Okay. So here's the dumb rhyme that helps you remember. When do you use ser? And when do you use estar? For how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. For how you feel or where you are, always use the verb estar. That's why we use estar. So if you want to talk about how you feel, use estar. If you want to talk about where you're located or where a thing is located, use estar. If it's not those two situations, it's the other verb. If it's not one of those two, then it's these guys. Okay? But to talk about location or feelings or emotions or health, things that change easily, we use these verbs. And here are the forms of estar. The yo form that only pairs up with yo, talking about myself, is estoy. Repitan, estoy.
Estoy.
Estoy. Just like you had soy, you've got estoy.
Estoy.
And estoy, the EST looks like the EST of estar, right? Estoy. But to talk to somebody in a friendly way, it's estás.
Estás.
That's why you learn ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo estás? How are you? I'm asking how you feel. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Yeah. ¿Cómo estás? Okay. To talk about one human being, a he or a she, or a you formal, because it falls into that category, it's está. Está. Okay. So notice I've got, these are all talking about one human being in some way, shape, or form, right? Yo, the I. And people will drop the yo. Estoy. Estás. Está, one person. And I'm going to give you this whole thing. You can like load it into your computer. Okay. Those all talk about one human being. I, yo. Estoy, estás, está. One person. Or the formal you, right? But the plural, and notice that most idea comes back. Like if you had somos, the most things comes back for nosotros. If I want to say we are, it's estamos. Estamos.
Estamos.
Estamos. Okay. Estáis is used in Spain for vosotros. You don't need to know that one because we won't use it in Latin America. And están. Están. They are. Or you guys are. Ustedes están enfrente de la computadora. Ustedes están enfrente de la computadora. You're in front of the computer. That's a location. Bien? Bien. Okay. Now notice, I can't say ustedes están inteligentes. You are intelligent. It's intelligent. Oh, I know, you may feel intelligent, but it's not how you feel, right? Ustedes son inteligentes. Ustedes son inteligentes because it's a mental characteristic, right? But ustedes están contentas. You guys are happy. Están contentos. You are happy. Están bien. You are well. Meaning you're not all, yeah. Están bien. Okay. So estar we use for location, and we use it to talk about health, emotions, feelings. Let's match up the forms of estar with the human beings they talk about, because I can only pair one kind of verb with one kind of human being. The person who is the subject of the sentence has to be matched up with the right verb form. Okay, to talk about my dad, which form of estar will work with mi padre?
Mi padre está.
Está.
Está. Mi padre está. Okay. Por ejemplo, mi padre está en California. My dad is in California. It's where he is. It's not saying mi padre es de California. He's from California. No, no. Mi padre está en California. Okay. Bien. Está en California. Okay. Tú. Which verb is going to match up with tú?
Estás.
Está.
Estás. This little S sound at the end is going to match up with a tú verb as the tú subject. Tú. Estás.
Right.
Estás. Tú estás. People will drop the word tú because they can. Why bother to say it if you don't need it? Estás. Okay. We only use tú there as a prompt. Mis amigos. Which verb matches up with mis amigos?
Están.
Estamos.
Am I in the group? Let's think about this.
No.
If I say mis
Están.
amigos, am I saying I'm in the group?
No.
I'm just
My
telling you.
friends.
My friends. That means they're friends that belong to me. They're not my kids' friends. They're not your
Están?
friends. It's more than one person, so we need a n at the end.
Están.
Done.
Están.
Están.
Yeah. N at the end says more than one person. Okay, an example of how we use this. Mis amigos están en Chicago. My friends are in Chicago. Mis amigos están enfermos. My friends are sick. It's their health. Changeable. Mis amigos están enfermos. My friends are sick. Okay. Now, cuidado, careful. Mi madre y yo. Yo has
Estamos.
somebody with me.
Estamos.
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 Estamos. Muy importante. Mi madre y yo is the same thing as saying nosotros. So the only thing that pairs up with the idea of nosotros, meaning yo and somebody with me, is the most kind of verb. Estamos. Mi madre y yo estamos en casa. We're at home. Estamos en casa. At home. En casa. Bien. Estamos en casa. Estamos en casa. Bien. Okay. Ustedes, you guys, more than one you.
Están.
We need a n ending on that verb. Ustedes están. Ustedes están en Scottsdale. Okay. Ustedes están bien. You are well. Usted, talking about one you, but the formal you. So I can't use estás with this one.
Está.
This shares the same form as he or she or it. Usted está. So the ¿cómo está usted? How are you? Is the formal how are you? ¿Cómo está usted? And somebody, if they're looking you straight in the eye, may drop the word usted and just say, ah, ¿cómo está? And they mean you, even though they didn't say usted, because if they're looking at you, they're not looking at him, they're looking at you. ¿Cómo está? How are you? So they may say, ¿cómo está? Or they may say, ¿cómo está usted? Right? Yeah. Okay. Sometimes usted is understood. Oh dear. But that will be because they're looking at you and smiling at you. And yeah, making eye contact with you. So that's how that works. Okay. Bien. All right. So these forms, sadly, have to be memorized. Yeah. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. But we know that mos is somebody with me. Yeah. We need to know that a n means more than one. Yeah. Okay. Bien. So we got some little clues, and you see again, the mos means a we, right? Yeah. That little S is a tu form by itself. The n is a they, more than one person. Yeah, that's going to become kind of a pattern that will help you. Let's see some examples of when we use ser and when we use estar. Ejemplos, examples, because there are two verbs that mean to be. How confusing. Okay, I can say, I can identify, ella es paciente, she's a patient. I'm identifying. She's not the doctor. Ella es paciente. She's the patient. Okay. La paciente, but la paciente está enferma. The patient is sick, enferma. How she feels. If I identify this woman, ella es doctora or ella es médica. There are two words for doctor. They're synonyms. They're interchangeable. Ella es doctora, ella es médica. Bien. But la médica está contenta. La médica está bien. She's well. Bien. Okay. How she feels. Okay. Bien. I might say, ellos son presidentes. They are presidents. That's what they did for a living. I know I'm not putting in the past because that becomes yet a different verb form. Ellos son presidentes. These guys are presidents. Yeah. Ellos están en los libros de la historia. They are in history books where they are, because some of them are dead. And I just don't want to be crude and say they're in the ground. Oh, I could say Jimmy Carter está en Georgia. Yeah, sí. Barack Obama está en Nantucket. Is he still in that East Coast home? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, where they're located. I could say that. Okay. Más ejemplos, more examples. Yo soy maestra. I am a teacher. But where I am becomes estoy en Arizona. Where I am. Okay. If I include myself in a group with my students, mis estudiantes y yo somos amigos. We are friends. See? But if I talk about where we are, estamos en la clase de Zoom. Where we are is not the same as what relationship we have to each other. Yeah, see? Okay. A ver. Oh, this guy here. Ed Sheeran es pelirrojo. Es inglés. Somebody said he's Irish. I don't know. I think he's, no sé. Es irlandés. Maybe he's Irish. Maybe he's English. I don't know for sure. Es inglés. He's English. His nationality. Es pelirrojo. He's redheaded. Unless he dyes his hair, that ain't going to change anytime soon, okay? But él está en un concierto. He's at a concert, a location. I might say, él está en Los Ángeles. He's in Los Angeles, maybe, to do a gig. Está cansado. He's tired. That's how he feels. Bien? If I want to talk about Beyonce and Jay-Z, Beyonce y Jay-Z son estadounidenses. They are US people. I could say son norteamericanos. Yeah. Where they're from, where they were born, country they were born in. But I might talk about where they are right now. Ellos, they, those two people, Beyonce y Jay-Z, ellos están en Los Ángeles. Están en Los Ángeles. Now I'm talking about a city they're in. Bien? ¿Entienden? See the difference between ser and estar? ¿Sí o no? Okay,
Sí.
so conceptually, yeah, conceptually it'll make sense. Yeah, but you know, getting used to using it takes some time. So yeah, just know it will take some time. If I talk to this woman saying tú, I could ask, are you an accountant? Eres contadora. Are you an accountant? That's her profession. Or I could say, estás ocupada. Are you busy? Busy is a state you're in, but you're not always busy. Estás ocupada. Are you busy? Yeah. Okay. So those are some ideas of when we use ser, when we use estar. We're going to reinforce that briefly next week because I want to do a little preview on numbers. Okay. And I'm going to talk about briefly about, momento. I'm going to give you, find my thingy. ¿Dónde está? Momentito. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of worksheet pages to like just drill yourself on the forms of estar, the forms of ser. I'll give that to you in the email as a homework, okay? Because those just have to be memorized. We're going to talk a little bit about I. Hopefully you watched the video about I with a refrigerator. Remember her? Yeah. I is a great verb. I call it a golden verb because I does not change. I don't need to know like soy, eres, es, somos, son. I don't need to know estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. I only need to know I. That's it. All the time, I. And I doesn't talk about yo or we. So I. It talks about things. Well, it can talk about people too. But it just is used to talk about stuff is out there. It exists. It in the most general terms possible. Okay. So here are some examples of when I can use I, and it never changes forms. So yay, everybody loves I. It can be used to talk about general stuff, like in a store. Hay frutas en el supermercado. There are fruits at the supermarket. Hay frutas. Yay, qué fácil, how easy. I can use it to talk about plural things. I could talk about hay piña, there's pineapple. I could talk about one thing. I can talk about like 50 things, and it'll always use I. So, hay frutas en el supermercado. There are fruits in the supermarket. Hay legumbres en el supermercado. There are veggies in the supermarket. I could use it to talk about a singular thing. Hay comida en el supermercado. There is food, which is a singular noun. Hay comida en el supermercado. There's food. I just use I to say something is there, to say it exists, okay? Hay botellas de jugo. There are juice bottles. There are bottles of juice. Hay botellas de vino. Oh, de vino. Yeah, vino también. Hay botellas de jugo en el supermercado. There are bottles of juice in the supermarket. Hay bebidas en el supermercado. Oh, you might want to ask, is there lemonade? Is there lemonade? Or do they not have any lemonade today? Did they sell out? So if you want to ask, is there any? You put it into a question. ¿Hay limonada en el supermercado? ¿Hay limonada? Is there any lemonade? So we often use this word "hay" to, ask for stuff. Yeah. Bien. Okay. Vale. Okay. Bien. Magnifico. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. And we're going to come back to this ser and estar. You'll see more examples next week, but you don't have to change into a different form. So, that doesn't take a whole lot of practice. I am going to give you a video to watch, this same one. She's going to combine I with numbers. Oh, we can also use I with numbers to say there are like a certain number of things. Like there are 5 doctors in that office, or there are 10 kids in the park, or there are 2 dogs. Oh, wow, there are 2 dogs playing together on the grass, wherever, in el parque. So we can use I just with a noun. We can use I with a number and a noun, and you're going to watch a little video on that. But we're going to preview numbers as just knowing how to say them, and you'll get this whole thing. Okay, numbers are important, so we're gonna preview how to say the numbers, and I'll give you yet another 3rd video on how to pronounce numbers, because the more you hear it repeated, the easier it will be for you to use it. But we'll start using these in earnest. So the numbers that you had in, ¿dónde está? Capítulo 3, chapter 3, get really, really, really comfy with those numbers and watch the video on that. Okay. Over the next week, but we're going to practice these together before we leave today. So I'm looking at this one, cero. I can make this big, más grande. Yeah, un poquito más. Okay. Cero, cero. Repitan, cero. 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 Okay.
Cero.
Then we've got dos.
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 See? Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped. How did I do that?
Uno.
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 Yeah, I can count.
Uno.
Cero. Uno.
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 Dos.
Dos.
Think of dynamic duo, 2 people.
Dos.
Tres.
Tres. Tres.
Think trio.
Cuatro.
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 Cuatro. Think quartet. That many musicians. Quartet. Cuatro. Cuatro.
Cuatro.
Cinco.
Cinco. Cinco.
Everybody knows cinco here because Cinco de Mayo. 5th of May. Yeah. Cinco. Okay. Cinco. 5th of May. Literally.
Seis.
Cinco de Mayo. Then we've got the number 6. Seis.
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 Then we've got the word 7.
Siete.
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 Siete. Okay.
Siete.
Then we've got the word ocho.
Ocho. Ocho.
Ocho.
Ocho.
And then we've got the word, and this one we're going to pause on because it's really important. Nueve.
Nueve.
Nueve. Okay,
Nueve.
guys, really important not to confuse nueve. And again, You're ending with a smile. Nueve
Nueve.
with nuevo. Nuevo with an
Nuevo.
O at the end means new, like brand new. So don't confuse nuevo, new, with nueve, 9.
Nueve.
You want to end with a smile. Nueve.
Nueve.
Nueve. Bien. Okay. And then we're going to finish out our decimal combination.
Diez.
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 Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, like decimal. All right. Indicates a teen. Yeah, a 10 thing. Okay. This is the basis. And you will recycle these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You will recycle them as you get into the higher numbers. Okay. But we're going to preview what the next set going from 11 to 20 does, because they're a little unique. They're a little unique. They become words like once.
Once.
Once is 11. Doce means
Doce.
12. Doce. Trece means
Trece.
13. So
Trece.
notice it goes from dos to putting an e on the end of dos. Doce.
Doce.
It goes from tres to putting an e on the end. Trece. So far, yeah. Okay. Vale. And then we go to, as my 14-year-old students used to call it, the long one. 14. 14 looks kind of like cuatro, but not exactly like cuatro. 14. 14.
14.
And now we've got 15, which does not look like cinco at all. This goes back to an old Latin word. All right. Quince. Keen. Think of being really keen. Quince.
15.
15 is 15. So, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all get unique words. Like we have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. But something special is going to happen when I go to 16, 17, 18, 19. It becomes like a math problem. I switch over into little math problems, 10 and 6, 10 and 7, 10 and 8, 10 and 9. Yay. So I've got, I squish it all together. 10 and 6, 16. 10, the 10 word.
Yes.
10, 10 and. 16.
16.
I get 17.
17.
10 and 6, 7, I'm sorry, 10 and 7. You see what it's doing. 18.
18.
10 and 8.
19.
19. Yay, 10 and 9. Now I get to a new number, and it sounds like the veins in your arms. Not DS,
Veinte.
but E. Vein. Think of the vein. 20.
20.
20 is 20. 20 is 20. 20 is going to do similar things. It's going to squash together. It's going to recycle the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on up to 9. And it's going to squash them together. 21, 22, 23. We'll practice these more next week. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. And then we get to 30. 30, like 20 is 20. 30 is this many.
30, yeah.
30. And notice, tres is tres, tres, tres. And we build on that word tres to get to 30. The 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 are going to get special endings. Like we have 30, 40, 50, 60. The equivalent of that in Spanish is going to be, something with enta. It's good. They're going to get enta, endings. So here's what they're going to get. They're all going to get endings that are enta. Like we have T in English. Instead of cuatro, it's 40. Instead of cinco, it's 50. Instead of seis, it's 60. 2 S's, like in seis, 60. Instead of 7, it's 70.
70.
Instead of 8, it's 80.
Yeah, 80.
Instead of 9,
90.
it's 90.
90.
And then we'll get up to that word we practice in the CECI. 100 and only the 100 is 100. 100.
100.
But when I say 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, it's got to go to a longer form of 100. It becomes not just 100, but ciento. We put a to on the end of it. A to on the end. Ciento. 101, 102, and moving on. So I'm going to send you a video that builds on that, because the more you hear it over and over, the more it will come. We will practice these numbers really heavy duty next week, para que sepan, so you know. So get really, really, really familiar with these numbers. And I'm going to give you a video that marches you right through. Don't go beyond 100 for the next week, okay? Because in order for you to repeat and drill and practice saying, I want you to practice saying them aloud. In order to do that, you need to really, really focus on the 1 to 100. Okay, and don't worry about beyond 100 yet at this point. ¿Está bien? We good? Sí, sí? Okay.
Sí.
Next week when you come back, we'll review ser and estar and I, why that gets used. And we're going to look at these numbers and hit them really heavy duty. Okay. We'll probably from chapter, capítulo 3, we'll probably talk about some of these houses. No, I'm sorry, perdón. 4. No, 3. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 does talk about, it does not give you the new vocabulary. You might want to dip your toe into chapter 4, only the vocabulary that talks about rooms in the house. Rooms in the house, a little bit with that, and start to get familiar with it. But don't feel like you have to have it all memorized 100%. Okay? And we'll start to combine all of these ideas. Bien? ¿Está bien? Magnifico. Okay, I will send you an email early in the afternoon. It's going to list all the links we used today, all the videos you need to watch for next week, and hit the numbers real hard. You're going to practice a lot looking at numbers and saying numbers for me next week. So I want to hear you say numbers, and I'm going to want you to recognize numbers. So in other words, I will dictate a number like 25, and I will want you to write down the digit, because people will tell you things like prices in the market. I'll tell you how much something costs. And the most important skill for you to have with numbers right now is going to be, do I know the number when they say it to me? Do I hear the number, and does a digit pop in my head? Does 25 pop into my head when I hear 25? That's a survival skill. Okay? ¿Está bien? Magnífico. Okay.
Sí.
Entonces nos vemos. I'll see you guys. Nos vemos el martes. I'll see you next Tuesday. Okay? ¿Está bien?
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Excelente. Nos vemos pronto. We'll see you guys soon.